Now starting another original tale from Korafika Tales, an exclusive work from our publishing house, narrated by Joanne. Enjoy the story. 3 children. 1 face. Repeated 3 times. 5 years ago, he erased the woman he loved to protect his empire. Power first. Love sacrificed. He never knew she was pregnant. Now, in the heart of Seoul, the unthinkable happens. 3 5-year-old children stop in front of him, his eyes, his jaw, his blood. Holding her hand. She doesn't scream. She doesn't accuse. She doesn't explain. She walks past him, as if the most feared man in the underworld no longer exists. But something breaks. Because for the first time in his life, the king who controls the night realizes the truth. He didn't lose a woman. He lost a family. And some wars. You only realize you lost when it's already too late. The rain in Seoul fell like judgment. Cold. Relentless. Unforgiving. Kang Ji-won stood under the steel-gray sky, his black coat untouched by the downpour, his presence a wall no storm could breach. 30 years old. Underground king. A name whispered in fear across 3 continents. He didn't feel the cold anymore. He hadn't felt much of anything in 5 years. Behind him, 8 armed men waited in silence, their eyes scanning the crowded street market near Gangnam Station. This was routine, a sweep, a collection, a reminder. His empire demanded visibility. His enemies demanded fear. But Ji-won wasn't thinking about empires today. He was thinking about ghosts. 5 years ago, he had signed divorce papers with hands that didn't shake. 27 years old, brilliant in her quiet way, she had loved him with the kind of purity that terrified powerful men. His parents, steel-spined, bloodline-obsessed, legacy-driven, had called her unworthy. Not because of her character, because of her heritage. She was African American. Graceful, educated, fluent in Korean, a rising lawyer in international trade. She fit nowhere in their empire's rigid hierarchy. They wanted a dynasty. She offered love. His father gave him a choice, the family, or her. Ji-won chose power. He told himself it was mercy, that she deserved better than a man drenched in blood, a life lived in shadows, a future without light. He told himself he was protecting her. He told himself many lies. The divorce was swift, legal, brutal. She never fought him, never cried in front of him, just signed the papers with elegant handwriting and left his penthouse without looking back. He never called. She never returned. And for 5 years, Kang Ji-won buried her memory under mountains of power, oceans of money, rivers of control. Until today. Boss. One of his men stepped forward, low voice cutting through the rain. Target confirmed. 2 blocks east. Ji-won nodded, his jaw tight. This sweep wasn't about money. It was about a traitor, a former lieutenant who thought distance and time could erase betrayal. Foolish. The crowd thickened as they moved deeper into the market district. Umbrellas bloomed like black flowers, vendors shouted, children laughed, and then Ji-won saw her. She stood near a small bookstore, her posture unchanged, straight, elegant, untouchable. Her skin glowed against the gray sky, her natural hair pulled into a soft, high bun. She wore a cream sweater and dark jeans, simple and devastating. But she wasn't alone. 3 children surrounded her. Small. 5 years old, maybe. 2 boys and a girl holding her hands, their laughter bright against the rain. Ji-won's breath stopped. The girl looked up at her mother, and Ji-won saw his own eyes staring back at him. Dark, sharp, unmistakable. The boys turned, and the resemblance struck him like a blade to the chest. His hair, his bone structure, his mouth. Triplets. His heart, dormant for half a decade, exploded into violent, chaotic life. She was pregnant. The thought roared through him like wildfire. She was pregnant when I divorced her. She never told me. She carried my children alone, raised them alone, survived alone. Jiwon took one step forward. She saw him. Their eyes met across 20 feet of rain-soaked pavement, and the world collapsed into a single infinite moment. Her expression didn't change. No shock, no fear, no tears, just recognition. And then, nothing. She looked away. Calm. Deliberate. Final. She knelt down, adjusted the little girl's jacket, whispered something that made all 3 children giggle. Then she stood, took their hands again, and walked past Jiwon as if he were a stranger, as if he were invisible. Boss? His lieutenant's voice was distant, irrelevant. Jiwon couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think beyond the shattering realization that the woman he destroyed had created life. His life. And never once asked him for mercy, money, or explanation. She had simply moved on. One of the boys glanced back, curious, his dark eyes wide. Jiwon's son. The child smiled, innocent, unaware, and then turned away, skipping to keep up with his mother and siblings. They disappeared into the crowd. And Kang Jiwon, king of shadows, master of fear, architect of empires, stood frozen in the rain, like a man who had just seen his own funeral. Jiwon didn't sleep that night. He sat in his penthouse office, 50 floors above the city, surrounded by glass and steel and silence. The rain had stopped. Seoul glittered below him like scattered diamonds. Beautiful, cold, indifferent. His mind replayed the moment on an endless loop. Her face, the children's laughter, the way she looked through him. He had spent 5 years building an empire so vast that entire districts bowed when he passed. He controlled shipping routes, underground networks, political favors, international alliances. He was untouchable. And yet, one woman had erased him with a single glance. Find her. His head of security, Choi Minho, stood near the door, arms crossed, expression unreadable. 40 years old, loyal since childhood, the only man who ever told Jiwon the truth. Already did, Minho said quietly. She lives in Itaewon, works as a senior consultant for an international law firm. The children attend a private academy nearby. No husband, no partner. She's alone. Jiwon's jaw tightened. Alone. The word was a knife. She raised 3 children alone, in a foreign country, without family, without support, without me. She never contacted you, Minho continued, his tone careful. Not once in 5 years. No legal claims, no financial requests. Nothing. Why? Minho hesitated. You want my guess? Yes. She doesn't want you near them. The truth landed like a bullet. Jiwon stood abruptly, pacing to the window. His reflection stared back, hard, cold, a stranger even to himself. Set up a meeting, he said. She won't agree. Then make it happen anyway. Minho didn't move. Boss. She's not afraid of you. You can't intimidate her. You can't threaten her. She already survived the worst thing you could do to her. Jiwon turned, his voice low, dangerous. Then what do you suggest? Apologize. The word hung in the air like something impossible. King Jiwon didn't apologize. Kings didn't kneel. Power didn't beg. But fathers. Fathers had no throne. 3 days later, Jiwon stood outside a small cafe in Itaewon. It was early morning. The street was quiet, the air cool and clean. Through the window, he saw her sitting alone at a corner table, a laptop open, a cup of tea untouched beside her. She looked peaceful. The thought enraged him. How dare she be peaceful while I'm unraveling? But beneath the anger was something rawer, more honest. Grief. He pushed open the door. The bell chimed softly. She looked up. For one heartbeat, her mask slipped. Surprise, maybe pain. but then her expression smoothed into polite neutrality. Kang Ji-won, she said quietly, her English flawless, her tone empty. I didn't realize we had an appointment. He crossed the cafe slowly, aware that every step closer felt like walking toward an execution. We don't, he replied, his voice rougher than intended. But we need to talk. She closed her laptop. Do we? You know we do. Her eyes, warm brown, steady, unafraid, met his. I know you want to talk. That's different. He sat down across from her without asking permission. She didn't protest, didn't leave, just waited. The children, Ji-won said, the words thick in his throat. They're mine. It wasn't a question. Yes, she said simply. No elaboration, no defense. Just truth. Why didn't you tell me? Her smile was small, sad, devastating. Would it have changed anything? The question shattered him, because the answer, the honest, ugly answer, was no. 5 years ago, drowning in family pressure and legacy obsession, he would have seen the pregnancy as a complication, not a miracle. He would have offered money, maybe support, but not love. Not the life she deserved. I was pregnant when you divorced me, she continued, her voice steady. 1 week along. I didn't know yet. When I found out, I thought about telling you. I did. But you had already made your choice. You chose your empire, your family's approval, your legacy. She paused, her gaze never wavering. I wasn't going to beg you to choose us. So you disappeared. I survived, she corrected. There's a difference. Ji-won's hands curled into fists on the table. You should have told me. Why? So you could feel obligated? So your parents could reject my children the same way they rejected me? So I could watch you visit once a month out of duty and call it fatherhood? Her words were surgical, precise, and absolutely true. I wanted them to know love, she said softly. Not power, not fear, not duty. Love. And you don't think I can give them that? I think, she said carefully, that you're very good at being a king. But kings don't raise children. Fathers do. Silence. Outside, the city began to wake. Cars passed, people walked, life continued. I want to meet them, Ji-won said finally. No. The refusal was gentle but absolute. They're my children. They're our children, she corrected, and right now they're happy, safe, stable. I won't disrupt that for your guilt. This isn't about guilt. Her expression softened with something close to pity. Isn't it? Ji-won leaned forward, desperation cracking through his control. I made a mistake. I know that now. I was a coward. I chose wrong. But I'm here. I'm asking. You're demanding. She interrupted quietly. Even now. Even when you're trying to be different, you're still the same man who couldn't fight for me 5 years ago. The truth was a blade in his chest. She stood, gathering her laptop, her tea left untouched. If you want to be part of their lives, she said, you need to prove you've changed. Not with money, not with power, with time, with presence, with love. How? She looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time, he saw the woman he had destroyed still standing, still breathing, still whole. Show me you're capable of putting someone else first, she said. Show me you can walk away from your empire if it means protecting them. Show me you're more than the name you built on fear. She walked to the door, paused, glanced back. When you're ready to be a father instead of a king, she said softly, call me. And then she was gone. Ji-won sat alone in the empty cafe, surrounded by morning light and the ghost of everything he'd lost. For the first time in his life, Kang Ji-won didn't know how to win. Ji-won returned to his empire like a ghost. Meetings blurred, decisions were made, money moved, power shifted, but none of it mattered. All he could see were 3 small faces, his children, strangers, He began to follow them, not with malice, but with desperate, aching curiosity. From a distance, always careful, always invisible. He watched them leave school, their backpacks bouncing, their laughter bright. He saw the little girl, his daughter, stop to help a younger child tie their shoe. He saw one of the boys share his snack with a classmate who had none. They were kind. She had raised them to be kind. The realization broke something in him. Because kindness was not a currency in his world. In his empire, kindness was weakness. Compassion was liability. Love was risk. But here, in these 3 small lives, he saw a different kind of strength. "You're going to get caught," Minho said one evening, appearing beside Jiwon's car outside the Children's Academy. "And when you do, she'll shut you out completely." "I need to understand them," Jiwon replied, his voice hollow. "You need to understand yourself first." Jiwon didn't respond. That night, he made a decision that would have been unthinkable a month ago. He called a meeting with his parents. The Kang estate was a fortress disguised as elegance, sprawling gardens, traditional architecture, walls designed to keep the world out and legacy in. Jiwon's father, Kang Doyan, sat behind a carved wooden desk, his expression as cold and unyielding as stone. 70 years old, silver-haired, a man who had built an empire on ruthlessness and blood. His mother, Kang Mirai, stood near the window, elegant and silent, her disapproval a palpable presence. "You want to acknowledge them," his father said, the word them laced with disdain. "They're my children," Jiwon replied evenly. "They're illegitimate," his mother said, her voice ice. "The product of a marriage we advised you to end. A mistake." "They're my blood," Jiwon said, his voice rising. "Triplets, 5 years old, alive, real, mine." His father leaned back, fingers steepled. "And what do you expect us to do? Welcome them into this family? Accept her back into our name? You think lineage is sentiment? I think I made a mistake. If this story is pulling you in, don't stop here. Inside the Romance Audio Club, you unlock full K-drama style romance series, exclusive bonus episodes, and a private VIP community that lives for love stories like this. Scan the QR code now and continue the story where emotions go deeper. The admission hung in the air like something sacred. His father's expression didn't change. "A mistake you're willing to compound by bringing shame into this house." "It's not shame," Jiwon said quietly. "It's responsibility." "Responsibility," his mother repeated, laughing bitterly. "You speak of responsibility now? 5 years too late? After you walked away like we told you to?" Jiwon's jaw tightened. "I was wrong to listen to you." Silence. His father stood slowly, his presence heavy, oppressive. "If you pursue this, you will do it without this family's support, without our name, without our resources. Then I'll do it alone." His father's eyes narrowed. "You think you can survive without us? Your empire exists because of our foundation. Your power is our legacy. Walk away, and you'll have nothing." "I already have nothing," Jiwon said, his voice breaking. "I have power. I have fear. I have an empire built on blood, but I don't have them." His mother turned away, her voice cold. "Then you've made your choice." Jiwon looked at his father. This man who had shaped him, controlled him, defined him for 30 years. "Yes," he said softly. "I have." He left the estate without looking back. Behind him, the fortress of his family's legacy stood tall and empty. Ahead, 3 small children waited in a world he'd never been brave enough to enter. The next morning, Jiwon stood outside her apartment building. He didn't call ahead, didn't plan. Just showed up, hands shaking, heart pounding, terrified in a way no enemy had ever made him feel. When she opened the door, she looked exhausted, hair pulled back, barefoot, a smudge of paint on her cheek. Behind her, he could hear the children laughing, cartoons playing, life happening. I walked away from them, Ji-won said before she could speak. My parents, my family, the empire they built. I told them I choose my children. I choose you. She stared at him, unreadable. I don't have proof, he continued, words tumbling out. I don't have some grand gesture. I need you to know that I'm done being the man who chose power. I want to be the man who chooses you. Them. Us. Her eyes softened, but her voice remained firm. Words are easy, Ji-won. I know. Walking away from your family doesn't erase 5 years. I know. You can't just show up and expect forgiveness. I know, he whispered, but I'm asking for a chance. Not for me. For them. They deserve to know their father. She looked at him for a long, agonizing moment. Then, slowly, she stepped aside. 1 hour, she said quietly. That's all. Ji-won stepped inside, and for the first time in 5 years, he crossed the threshold into something that felt terrifyingly close to home. 3 small faces turned toward him, curious, unafraid. And Kang Ji-won, king of nothing, knelt down to meet his children. The living room was small, warm, lived in. Everything Ji-won's penthouse was not. Toys scattered across the floor, drawings taped to the walls, a worn couch with mismatched cushions. The air smelled like cinnamon and safety, like a life built from love instead of fear. Ji-won knelt on the carpet, his expensive suit out of place, his hands trembling. 3 children stared at him with identical dark eyes, his eyes, curious but cautious. The little girl stepped forward first, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Are you Mama's friend? His throat closed. Yes, I'm a friend. What's your name? One of the boys asked, tilting his head. Ji-won. The other boy frowned. That's a Korean name. Are you from Korea? Yes. We're Korean too, the girl said brightly. And American. Mama says we're both. Ji-won looked past them to where she stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching him with an expression he couldn't read. This is Mina, she said quietly, nodding to the girl. And that's Jaehoon and Taemin. Mina, Jaehoon, Taemin. His children had names, personalities, favorite toys and inside jokes and memories that didn't include him. The weight of 5 lost years crushed him. Mama, can he stay for lunch? Mina asked, her voice hopeful. That's up to him, she replied, her tone neutral. Ji-won looked at her, this woman who had every right to hate him, who had every reason to shut the door in his face, and saw something unexpected in her eyes. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. I'd like that, he said hoarsely. If it's okay. She hesitated, then nodded. 1 hour. Lunch was chaos. Taemin spilled juice on the table. Jaehoon argued about vegetables. Mina told a rambling story about a butterfly she saw at school that went on for 10 minutes without a single pause. Ji-won sat at the small kitchen table, overwhelmed, lost, and more alive than he'd felt in years. She moved through the space with practiced ease, wiping spills, settling arguments, laughing at Mina's story even though she'd probably heard it 3 times already. This was her world, messy, loud, real, and he was a stranger in it. Do you have kids? Jaehoon asked suddenly, looking at Ji-won with disconcerting directness. The question hit like a punch. Ji-won glanced at her. She watched him carefully, waiting. No, I don't. It was both true and a lie. Technically, he had 3 children, but he hadn't earned the right to claim them yet. Do you want kids? Mina asked, leaning forward with wide, innocent eyes. Yes, Ji-won said, his voice breaking. Very much. Then you should get some, Taemin said matter-of-factly. Kids are fun, except when Jaehoon steals my toys. I don't steal, I borrow, Jaehoon protested. The argument escalated into giggles and gentle shoving. She stood, started clearing plates. Ji-won rose to help. "You don't have to," she said quietly. "I want to." They worked in silence, side by side, and for a moment it felt almost normal, like a memory of what could have been. "They're incredible," Ji-won said softly, watching the children through the doorway as they built a blanket fort in the living room. "They are," she agreed. "They're everything I have." The words weren't accusatory, just honest. "I'm sorry," Ji-won said, the words inadequate, insufficient, but necessary. "For everything. For not fighting for you. For choosing power over us. For 5 years of absence. I'm sorry." She dried a plate slowly, her movements careful. "I appreciate that, but it's not enough." "No," she said gently. "It's not." He nodded, accepting the truth. "What do I need to do?" She turned to face him, leaning against the counter. "You need to understand that this isn't about grand gestures or dramatic redemption. It's about showing up, consistently, being present, proving that you're not going to disappear the moment things get difficult, or your family pressures you, or your empire demands your attention." "I walked away from them," Ji-won said. "My parents, the family business." Her expression shifted. Surprise, maybe respect. "Completely?" "Yes." "And your empire?" "I'm restructuring, legitimizing, getting out of the shadows." He paused. "It won't be fast, but I'm done building power on fear." She studied him for a long moment. "Why now? Why after 5 years?" "Because I saw them," he said simply. "And I realized I'd spent 5 years building a kingdom for ghosts. I have everything except the only things that matter." Footsteps pattered into the kitchen. Mina appeared, tugging on Ji-won's sleeve. "Will you play with us?" she asked, her smile innocent and devastating. Ji-won looked at her, his daughter, and felt something shift in his chest. "I'd love to," he whispered. She grabbed his hand, small, warm, trusting, and pulled him toward the living room. Behind him, he heard her exhale slowly. Not forgiveness, but a beginning. The hour stretched into 2, then 3. Ji-won found himself inside a blanket fort, listening to Taemin explain the complex rules of a game that made no logical sense. Ji-hoon showed him a drawing of a dragon that was actually, according to the artist, a dinosaur. Mina insisted on braiding invisible flowers into his hair with invisible string. It was absurd. It was beautiful. It was everything he'd never known he needed. When the children finally crashed, exhausted, sprawled on the couch in a tangle of small limbs, she walked Ji-won to the door. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For today. For the chance." "Don't thank me yet," she replied. "This was one afternoon. Not a promise. I know. If you want to be part of their lives, it has to be real. Not guilt, not obligation. Real." "It is real," Ji-won said, his voice fierce. "They're the most real thing I've ever had." She looked at him, searching, assessing, and he let her see everything. The regret, the hope, the desperate aching need to be more than he'd been. "Come back on Saturday," she said finally. "Same time. We'll see how it goes." Relief flooded through him. "I'll be here." "Ji-won," she said as he reached for the door. He turned back. "If you hurt them, if you disappear, if you break their hearts, I will make sure you never see them again. Do you understand?" Her voice was soft, but the threat was absolute. "I understand," he said. "And I won't. I promise." She nodded once, and he stepped into the hallway. Behind him, the door closed softly, but not locked, not anymore. Ji-won didn't go home that night. Instead, he drove to the edge of the city, parked near the Han River, and sat in silence. For years, he'd believed power was control. That strength meant never showing weakness. that love was a liability in a world built on fear. But 3 children with paint on their hands and laughter in their voices had shattered that illusion in a single afternoon. His phone buzzed. A message from Minho. "Your father called. He wants to meet. Says it's urgent." Jiwon stared at the message for a long moment. Then he deleted it. His father had made his choice 5 years ago, when he forced Jiwon to choose between legacy and love. Now Jiwon was making his own choice. He typed a message to his attorney. "Begin the process. I want full legitimization of all operations. Clean, legal, no shortcuts. And draw up custody documents. I need advice on parental rights." The reply came quickly. "That will take time, and cost you significant power." Jiwon smiled, a real smile, maybe the first in years. "I have time, and I don't need power anymore. I need something better." He sent the message and pocketed his phone. Across the river, the city glittered. Beautiful, indifferent, infinite. But Jiwon wasn't looking at the empire anymore. He was thinking about a small apartment, 3 small children, and one woman who had survived everything he'd put her through and still found the strength to give him a second chance. He wouldn't waste it. Not this time. Saturday came slowly. Jiwon stood outside her building at exactly 2 p.m., holding 3 small gifts, a book about dragons for Jihoon, a art set for Taemin, and a stuffed rabbit that matched Mina's for her collection. Simple, thoughtful, not extravagant. When she opened the door, her expression softened slightly at the sight of the gifts. "You didn't have to," she said. "I wanted to." The children appeared behind her, eyes lighting up when they saw him. "Jiwon!" Mina shouted, launching herself forward. He caught her instinctively, lifting her up, and the feeling of her small arms around his neck was almost too much to bear. "You came back," she said, delighted. "I promised I would," Jiwon replied, his voice thick. Jihoon and Taemin crowded close, examining the gifts with excited chatter. She watched from the doorway, her expression unreadable but not unkind. "Come in," she said finally, "but no spoiling them. We have rules here." "Understood." As he stepped inside, Mina still in his arms, Jihoon tugging on his hand, Taemin already opening the art set, Jiwon felt something he hadn't felt in 5 years. Hope. Real, terrifying, beautiful hope. And for the first time since he'd signed those divorce papers, Kang Jiwon believed he might actually deserve a second chance. Not because he'd earned it, but because 3 small children and 1 extraordinary woman were willing to give him the opportunity to try. The weeks that followed became a rhythm. Saturday afternoons, sometimes Sundays, always supervised, always careful. Jiwon showed up, on time, every time. He learned their favorite foods. Mina loved strawberries, Jihoon only ate dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets. Taemin refused anything green unless it was lime popsicles. He learned their fears. Mina hated thunderstorms. Jihoon was afraid of the dark. Taemin worried about his mother being sad. He learned their dreams. Astronaut, chef, artist. He learned how to braid hair, badly. How to read bedtime stories with proper voice acting. How to lose at board games without making it obvious. He learned how to be present. And slowly, so slowly it was almost imperceptible, she began to soften. Not in words, but in small gestures. She laughed at his terrible attempts to cook. She let him stay an extra hour when the children begged. She asked about his day. She sat beside him on the couch while they watched the children play. One evening, after the children had fallen asleep during a movie, she turned to him. "You're doing well," she said quietly. The praise felt like absolution. "I'm trying," Jiwon replied. "I can see that." Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, but heavy with unspoken history. "I need to tell you something," Jiwon said finally. "My parents, they've disowned me, officially, cut me out of the family entirely." Her expression shifted, Concern, maybe guilt. Because of us? Because I chose you, he corrected. And I'd do it again. Every time. She looked at him for a long moment. That's not a small thing. No, he agreed. But they are. He nodded toward the sleeping children. They're everything, and you. You're everything. Her breath caught. I don't expect you to forgive me, Ji-won continued, his voice low, urgent. I know I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I'm not the man I was 5 years ago. I'm trying to be someone worthy of you. Of them. Of this. She reached out slowly, her hand covering his. It was the first time she'd touched him intentionally in 5 years. I can see that, she whispered. And it matters. But Ji-won, we can't go backward. We can only go forward. And I don't know what forward looks like yet. Neither do I, he admitted. But I'd like to figure it out. Together. She squeezed his hand gently, then pulled away. One day at a time, she said softly. One day at a time, he echoed. It wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was more than he'd had yesterday. And for Kang Ji-won, that was enough. 3 months passed. Winter came to Seoul, soft and quiet, covering the city in gentle snow. Ji-won had become a fixture in the children's lives. Not a father yet, not fully, but something closer to it every day. He attended school plays, helped with homework, learned to pack lunches that met her exacting standards, showed up for doctor's appointments and parent-teacher conferences. He was present, and presence, he was learning, was the most radical form of love. His empire had changed too. The restructuring was brutal, expensive, and necessary. He'd severed ties with underground operations, legitimized shipping routes, invested in legal enterprises. His fortune had shrunk, but his conscience had cleared. Minho had stayed loyal through it all, though even he seemed shocked at the transformation. You're becoming boring, Minho joked one afternoon. Good, Ji-won replied, watching through the cafe window as Mina tried to teach her brothers a dance she'd learned at school. Boring sounds perfect. But peace never lasted long in his world. The threat arrived on a Tuesday, an unmarked envelope delivered to his office. Inside, a single photograph. Her, walking with the children, leaving school. The message was clear. Someone knew. Someone was watching. Someone wanted leverage. Ji-won's blood turned to ice. He called Minho immediately. Full security detail, now, on her and the children, invisible but constant. Who's the threat? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. He didn't tell her about the photograph. Didn't want to frighten her. Didn't want to disrupt the fragile trust they'd been building. It was a mistake. He should have told her. Because 3 days later, everything fell apart. She was leaving the grocery store, children in tow, bags in hand, when a black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down. Ji-won's father sat in the back seat, his expression cold, imperious. Get in, Kang Do-yeon said. We need to talk. She straightened, her voice calm but firm. I have nothing to say to you. Then listen. Mina clutched her mother's hand. Mama, who is that? No one important, baby, she said softly, then looked back at Do-yeon. Leave us alone. My son has made a fool of himself over you, Do-yeon said, his voice cutting. Abandoned his family, destroyed his legacy. For what? Children who will never be accepted? A woman who will never belong? She didn't flinch. That's not my problem. It will be, Do-yeon said coldly, when reality sets in. When he realizes what he's lost. When he resents you for the empire you cost him. If you think I forced your son to do anything, she said evenly, then you don't know him at all. He made his own choice. A choice I can unmake. The threat hung in the air. Are you threatening me? She asked, her voice steady despite the fear beginning to curl in her chest. I'm offering you clarity, Doyen replied. Walk away now. Take the children. I'll provide financial support, generous support, enough to build a life anywhere in the world. But leave Seoul. Leave my son. Let him return to his real life. His real life? She repeated, her anger barely controlled. His real life is with his children. The ones you refuse to acknowledge. The ones you've ignored for 5 years. Illegitimate children. Stop. Her voice was ice. They are not illegitimate. They are human beings, your grandchildren. And if you can't see that, then you're not worth my time or his. She turned, gathering the children, ready to leave. You'll regret this, Doyen said quietly. She looked back one last time. The only thing I regret is that your son wasted 30 years believing you actually loved him. She walked away, heart pounding, children chattering, refusing to let them see her fear. But fear followed her home. Ji-won arrived an hour later, frantic. Minyo had called him the moment the security detail reported the encounter. She opened the door, her expression tight, controlled. We need to talk, she said. The children were at a neighbor's apartment, a kind elderly woman who often babysat. The living room felt too small, too tense. My father approached you, Ji-won said, his voice rough with fury and guilt. I'm sorry. I should have warned you. Warned me? She interrupted. Ji-won, your father threatened me, tried to bribe me to leave the country with your children. Our children. I'll handle him. No. She held up a hand. You don't get to handle this. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Your world, your family, the danger, the control, the manipulation. I'm not part of that anymore. But it's still part of you. Her voice rose, frustration and fear spilling over. You can walk away from your empire, but your empire doesn't walk away from you. Your father doesn't walk away. And I will not raise my children in a world where they're used as leverage or threatened or offered money like commodities. Ji-won's heart shattered. What are you saying? She looked at him. This man who had tried so hard, changed so much, given up so much. And her eyes filled with tears. I'm saying I don't know if this can work, she whispered. I want it to. God, I want it to. But not at the cost of their safety. Not at the cost of their peace. I'll protect you, Ji-won said desperately. All of you. I swear. You can't control everything, she said, her voice breaking. And I can't live in fear that every time we leave the apartment, someone from your past is waiting. That your father will show up again. That someone will use them to hurt you. So what do we do? Ji-won asked, his voice raw. I don't know, she admitted, tears streaming down her face. I need time. To think. To figure out if we can make this work without putting them at risk. Silence. Heavy, painful, unbearable. How much time? Ji-won asked quietly. I don't know. He nodded slowly, understanding, but destroyed. Can I still see them? She hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but carefully, and only when I say it's safe. It wasn't what he wanted, but it was more than he deserved. I love you, Ji-won said suddenly, the words bursting out of him like something he'd been holding back for years. I loved you 5 years ago. I loved you when I was too much of a coward to say it. And I love you now. I love you and I love them. And I will do whatever it takes to keep you safe. Even if that means walking away. Her breath hitched. Ji-won. But I'm not walking away, he continued, his voice fierce. Not unless you tell me to. I will fight my father. I will dismantle what's left of my empire if I have to. I will build walls around you so high that no threat can reach you. Just don't give up on me. Not yet. She looked at him, this man who had destroyed her, and was now trying desperately to rebuild everything. And her heart broke for both of them. I'm not giving up, she said softly. But I'm scared, and I need to protect them. That comes first. Always. I know, Ji-won whispered, and I wouldn't respect you if it didn't. She wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders. Go handle your father. End this. Prove to me that you can keep them safe from your world. I will. And Ji-won? She stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. If you can't completely sever yourself from that life, then we can't do this. I won't watch my children grow up afraid. He nodded, understanding the ultimatum. His empire, or his family, power, or love, fear, or hope. There was no choice. There had never been a choice. I'll take care of it, he said. And he left, carrying the weight of an impossible decision that had already been made. Ji-won stood in his father's study for what he knew would be the last time. Kang Do-yoon sat behind his desk, confident, cold, untouchable. You came, his father said. You threatened my family, Ji-won replied, his voice deadly calm. Did you think I wouldn't? They're not your family, not legally, not in the eyes of this house. Then I don't belong in this house. His father leaned back, studying him. You're willing to throw away everything? 30 years of building, of legacy, of power, for 3 children and a woman who never belonged. They're the only things I've ever built that matter, Ji-won said quietly. And yes, I'm willing to lose everything else to keep them. You won't survive without this family's protection. Then I'll learn to survive differently. Do-yoon's expression hardened. You're weak, sentimental, pathetic. Maybe, Ji-won agreed. But I'm also happy. Can you say the same? The question landed like a blow. His father's face twitched, just for a moment, and Ji-won saw something he'd never seen before. Regret, brief, fleeting. But there. I built this empire for you, Do-yoon said, his voice rough. No, Ji-won replied. You built it for yourself, and you wanted me to inherit your prison. It's not a prison, it's power. It's loneliness, Ji-won said. It's fear. It's spending your life surrounded by people who obey you but never love you. I know. I've lived it. And I'm done. He placed an envelope on the desk. What's this? His father asked. My formal resignation from all family businesses, legal documents severing my ties to your operations, and a restraining order. If you approach her or the children again, I will use every legal resource I have to protect them, and I don't care if it destroys me in the process. His father stared at the envelope as if it were something poisonous. You'll have nothing, Do-yoon said. I'll have them, Ji-won replied. That's everything. He turned toward the door. Ji-won. He paused, didn't look back. Do you really think you can protect them? His father asked, and for the first time there was something almost human in his voice. The world is cruel, especially to people like us. Then I'll teach them to be stronger than the cruelty, Ji-won said, the way you never taught me. He left the estate. Behind him, the fortress stood, cold, empty, powerful. Ahead, a small apartment waited, filled with laughter and paint stains and love. Ji-won didn't look back. 2 weeks later, Ji-won stood outside her apartment again. This time, he carried documentation, legal proof that he'd severed all connections to his family's empire, financial records showing legitimate income sources, security assessments confirming no active threats. She opened the door, looking tired but hopeful. I handled it, he said quietly, offering her the folder. It's done. No more ties to my father. No more underground connections. I've gone completely legitimate, and I've set up a security company, legal, professional, to ensure you and the children are always protected. She took the folder, flipped through it silently. This is thorough, she said finally. I meant what I said. I'll do whatever it takes. She looked up at him, her eyes searching. What about your fortune? Your empire? Smaller, cleaner, enough. He paused. I sold most of it, put the money in trust funds for the children, for their education, their future, whatever they need. Her breath caught. Jiwan. I don't need an empire, he said softly. I need them. I need you. That's all. She set the folder down, stepped closer. I've been thinking, she said carefully, about what you said, about love, about trying. His heart pounded. I can't promise I'm ready to trust completely, she continued. 5 years. That's not something that disappears overnight. But I can see you've changed. Really changed. And the children. They love you. I love them too, Jiwan whispered. I know. She reached up, touched his face gently. And I think I'm ready to try. Really try. Not just supervised visits. Not just careful boundaries. I want to see if we can build something real. Relief and joy crashed through him. Are you sure? No, she admitted, smiling through tears. But I'm willing to find out. He pulled her close, and for the first time in 5 years, she let him hold her. Really hold her. The door behind them opened. 3 small faces appeared. Mama, are you crying? Mina asked, worried. She laughed, wiping her eyes. Happy tears, baby. Is Jiwan staying? Jihoon asked hopefully. She looked at Jiwan, her eyes warm. Would you like to stay for dinner? I'd love to, he said. Then come in, she said softly. All the way in, not as a visitor, as family. The word shattered him in the best possible way. Mina grabbed his hand. Can you read to us tonight? Of course. And play dragons? Taemin added. Absolutely. And help with my art project? Jihoon chimed in. Anything you want. She watched them pull him inside, these 3 small miracles, and the man who had finally learned what mattered. As the door closed behind them, she allowed herself to hope. That broken things could be repaired. That lost time could be redeemed. That love, real love, could survive even the cruelest mistakes. 6 months later, the small garden behind her apartment building had been transformed. Fairy lights hung from trees. White flowers lined the pathway. A small arch stood at the center, simple but beautiful. It wasn't a grand ceremony. No crowds, no photographers, no empire, just family. Mina wore a flower crown. Jihoon and Taemin stood proudly in tiny suits, fidgeting but smiling. Minho stood as best man, grinning at the impossibility of it all. A handful of friends, hers, not his, filled the chairs. And she stood at the beginning of the path, radiant in a simple white dress, her natural hair styled with delicate flowers, her eyes bright with tears and joy. Jiwan waited under the arch. His breath caught in his throat. This woman, who had survived his worst mistakes, who had raised his children alone, who had given him a second chance he never deserved, was about to become his wife. Not in a cathedral, not in front of powerful families and political alliances, but here, in a garden, surrounded by love. As she walked toward him, the children skipping beside her, Jiwon felt something he'd spent 30 years searching for. Peace. Real, profound, unshakable peace. She reached him, her smile soft. Ready? I've been ready for 5 years, he whispered. The ceremony was short, intimate, perfect. When the officiant pronounced them married, Mina cheered loudly. Jihoon and Taemin clapped. Minho wiped his eyes, pretending he wasn't crying. Jiwon kissed his wife, and the world shrank to just this moment, just this love, just this family. I love you, he whispered against her lips. I love you too, she replied. Finally, the children surrounded them, hugging their legs, laughing, and Jiwon knelt down to their level. You know what this means, right? He said, his voice thick with emotion. What? Mina asked. It means I'm your dad. Officially. If that's okay with you. 3 small faces lit up. Really? Taman asked. Really. Can we call you Appa? Jihoon asked shyly. Jiwon's heart shattered and rebuilt itself simultaneously. I would love that. Appa! Mina shouted, launching herself into his arms. And just like that, Kang Jiwon, former crime lord, fallen king, reformed man, became something infinitely more powerful. A father. 1 year later. The small house in the suburbs wasn't grand. No penthouse view, no marble floors, no empire. But it had a backyard where the children played, a kitchen that smelled like home, walls covered in drawings and photographs and memories. Jiwon came home from his legitimate security consulting business, boring, legal, fulfilling, to find chaos. Mina had paint in her hair. Jihoon was building a blanket fort. Taman was trying to teach the new puppy tricks. His wife stood in the kitchen, flour on her cheek, laughing at something on her phone. Appa's home, Mina yelled, running to him. He caught her, spun her around, then grabbed Jihoon and Taman into a group hug. How was school? He asked. 3 voices competed to tell him stories. All at once, overlapping, enthusiastic. His wife walked over, kissed him softly. Welcome home. Best words I've heard all day, he murmured. That night, after the children were asleep, they sat on the back porch, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. Do you ever miss it? She asked quietly. The power? The empire? Jiwon looked at the house behind them, small, modest, perfect, and smiled. Not even once, he said. This is my empire now, and it's the only one that matters. She squeezed his hand. I'm proud of you, for choosing this, for becoming this. I'm proud of us, he replied, for surviving, for healing, for building something better than what we lost. They sat in comfortable silence, the night cool and peaceful around them. Inside, 3 children slept safely. Outside, 2 people who had lost everything found something infinitely more valuable. Each other. A family. A new beginning. Not built on power or fear or empire, but on love. Real, messy, imperfect, unshakable love. And that, Kang Jiwon finally understood, was the only empire worth building. If this story stayed with you, don't let it end here. Inside the Romance Audio Club, the story continues, with full K-drama-style romance series, exclusive bonus episodes, and a private VIP community for those who crave stories that hurt, heal, and haunt. This is where emotions go deeper, where love stories don't fade after the screen goes dark. Scan the QR code now and step into the next chapter.